Good morning, everybody, or depending on what time it is when you're watching this, good evening or good day. I'm kind of backed up here in the video series as far as garage sale, flea market, yard sale, Craigslist buys type of stuff. I just finished editing and posting part 3 of the garage sale. That's what I call that one. And I had mentioned in that video that the gentleman had a cabinet that I was interested in. I ended up buying at that point, and I was kind of looking for an excuse to go back there anyways, and I'll get to that at the tail end of this video or video series if it ends up being a series. Sunday morning I got some time, snuck down here before the kiddies and everybody woke up, and so this is the cabinet that I went back for. I spotted this cabinet when I was there originally buying the stuff that you saw, the sign angle plate, the Bridgeport sign angle plate, and I forget the name of the company, but the British angle plate. By the way, the British angle plate, I looked that up. They still sell that new, and it's 400 pounds or so, or 300 and something pounds. Not weight, that's how much it sells for, because it's a British angle plate, and the only place I could find it was on a British website. So how it ended up over here in the good old US of A, I don't know. But I think that the dollar or pound equivalent is somewhere roughly in the same neighborhood, so I don't know what that translates to. Point is that that was obviously a steal at the 20 or 25 bucks that I gave for it. Okay, so that's not to say that it isn't going to go to the scrapyard as soon as I die. You know, the more I think about it. Well, anyways, I digress. So this is the cabinet. I had spotted this cabinet when I was originally out there buying that stuff, and it was kind of there was some stuff piled up in front of it, and I said, yeah, that's a nice little cabinet. I could really use that in my shop. And he says, well, he said, that's for sale too. Kind of like, yeah, make me an offer. And I mulled over and I looked in the drawers a little bit, and in one of these drawers there was like six identical Starrett indicators, and they were a model that I hadn't seen before, so I'm not sure what the deal was with that. But I pointed those out because we were talking about, well, all the drawers seem to have some stuff in it. Majority of it was just stuff that he didn't really care about. So I said, well, we could take the indicators out, because obviously I said I'm lousy with indicators, and I know he could get more money for them individually if he sold them than if I just bought them with the whole thing. So anyways, I bought the other stuff, and then I was thinking about this cabinet, and the thing was, it had started to rain, and I had nothing to cover this with in the bed of the truck. And also I just feared that all of these drawers were going to fall out if I laid this on its back so the drawers don't fall out. Then all the stuff in the drawers falls out all over the place. If I leave it standing up in the truck like this, then the drawers are going to slide out and fall out, and I'm going to have a disaster in the bed of the truck. So I just kind of really didn't want to get involved in that. The way to move it would be to take each drawer out, which is how I ended up getting it here. I took each drawer out and I laid the drawers on the floor of the back seat area, and on the seat of the back seat of the truck, kept that all relatively safe from falling over, and putting the empty cabinet in the bed of the truck. So what was the cabinet worth? Well, I had remembered when he kind of made a comment when I was looking at it the first time, and he made a comment referencing to the fact that, well, if he didn't sell it, it was probably going to go, and he stopped himself short because I think he was about to tell me that it was probably going to end up going to the scrapyard. So I thought about the cabinet after I left him, and I thought about this other item that I had seen that we had, I hadn't been able to close a deal on. So it's a small item. I got to say that because I had mentioned this is the guy who's still got well, by now he's probably sold it, but he still had a South Bend lathe and a Bridgeport. Anyways, so I partly wanted an excuse to get back to this guy's garage to poke around some more, and I also was genuinely interested in the cabinet. So I contacted him, and I talked about how I was interested in the cabinet, and also he had a roll-around cart, probably about the size of my parts washer here as far as height goes, in depth, but about half as wide. And it was a nice sturdy roll around cart, and I loved the height of it, and I thought, wow, that'd be a great cart to have over by the milling machine or like the lathe and have my chucks on it. And you know, heavy things that, so you're basically lifting from this height over to the bed of the lathe to get your chucks on and off, that kind of thing. So I really liked the idea of that. Turns out when I got out there, he thought I was talking about a different cart, which was lower, heavier, wider. It was a pretty massive cart, which would be great for somebody if they had a use for it. But I couldn't use it, so I ended up passing on that. But I did get the cabinet, and it was funny because his dad, I could have got this cabinet for 25 bucks, but his dad came out and into the garage, and he started, you know, he had a real problem with it because he felt that his son was giving it away too cheap, and he was claiming the hardware and it was worth so much and everything. So we went back and forth, and now here I am, you know, bickering with Dad, who doesn't even own the cabinet, but who now has become selling agent for the son, who, by the way, is a grown man. Okay, we're not talking about like some kid I'm taking advantage of here. This is a guy who's just thinking, I just want to get this stuff out of here because my dad wants this garage cleaned out, you know? So what ended up happening was, at one point, I finally told the guy, I said, look, if you think this hardware is so valuable in there, get a 5-gallon pail, we'll dump all the drawers out into it, and you can have the stuff. Well, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, then it's going to be all mixed together and he's not going to want it. So I said, well, then do you want to buy the cabinet and keep it in the garage? Keep it here. Well, no. All he wanted was he wanted more money out of me. So what I ended up doing was I ended up working a deal where I ended up buying the other item, because when it came right down to it and we were having trouble making the deal, I brought up the fact the other item was still sitting there on the floor where it had been left, because when I saw it originally, he wasn't sure what it was. I wasn't sure what it was exactly. I had an idea. And he said he had a machinist friend who we wanted to have come take a look at it and see whether or not it was something he could use, or, you know, give him an idea on the value. So I said, well, I see that's still there. I said, you know, did your friend take a look at it? And then they had a whole discussion about, well, how he was supposed to come around, but he's too busy, he's got a job shop, and yada, yada, yada. So finally, we ended up cutting a deal, and for, I think, pretty sure it was $70 total. I got this cabinet, I got the other item. I'm figuring I got the cabinet for $30 and paid $40 for the other item. We'll get to the other item, like I said, at the end. So I got the cabinet for 30 bucks. I just thought it was a nice cabinet. Well, when I got home, I researched this cabinet. And this cabinet is a Steelmaster. I think it says Art School Company Incorporated, New York, USA. If you go on eBay and look at previous auctions sold, which is a good indicator of true value of items, this cabinet actually brings quite a bit of money. It's quite the sought-after organizer. Unfortunately, the only damage, there's a couple, you know, the paint's not perfect by far, but I mean, it's a shop cabinet, so who cares about that? The only damage that I found was just now this morning when I was putting all of this stuff back together, I noticed that this drawer is missing the handle. The funny thing is, I'm almost positive that wasn't the case when I bought it. I think this handle actually broke off at some point when I was taking all the drawers and pulling them in and out. I think I may have inadvertently hit this handle with something and popped this handle out. I'm not sure exactly how they mount in there, so I don't know if I can even fix that. And it's not a big deal except for the fact that now you got to open the drawer below to grab it. So what we're going to do in this video series is we're going to go through this drawer by drawer and try and take a quick look at what I got as basically gravy on the biscuit. Stuff that's in there that I didn't even really think about hard when I was making my offer. But now that I have gone through all of these drawers and looked at what's in there, and kind of got an idea and did a little research on some of the items so that I can have an idea of what's in there, so that, you know, when we're talking to you guys with this video series, I'm not kind of scratching my head, although there's still some stuff in there I'm scratching my head on. Alright, so I'm going to change the camera angle and we'll get to work on looking at this stuff. Alright, the first 3 drawers are empty, in case anybody was counting and they actually noticed that I don't look in 3 of the drawers. So we'll be starting with drawer number 4. Where this guy bought this cabinet out of is the same place that he bought the Bridgeport out of, which was out of a company that had a machine shop, and apparently they did a lot of stuff with pneumatic automated machinery and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff in here that's very specialized industrial stuff. And here's a perfect example. This drawer right here has a bunch of fittings in it, and the best I can figure is that because they've got, like, that's a barbed fitting there, and you get a port here, and then this looks like a, yeah, this is an adjustment here with a lock nut. So I'd venture to guess that this is either for vacuum or air pressure, and that this is some sort of regulator. And it's got a number on it, RFC 1/8. This is a flare line. It's got a direction of flow, free flow. So this is the kind of thing that I will have absolutely no use for. So this I haven't researched yet, but this will be, you know, if they've got some value, I'll sell them on eBay individually. If they have low value, I'll sell them on eBay as a lot. And if they have no value, I'll take the brass fittings out of each one of them, and the bodies that are aluminum will go in the scrap. And a bunch of, there's more brass fittings in here, specialized brass fittings. There's these things here. These are little blocks. This is a Festo, F-E-S-T-O, 6R 1/8, 0.1 to 10 BSR maybe? Again, something kind of special. Got a adjustment on the top, line coming in, line going out. A valve or flow reducer or something along those lines. Here must be the kind of hose that was used to hook up between the different things. And there's one Boston gear on-off valve. So it's almost like a toggle switch, but it's for air or hydraulic or whatever these things ran on. So that's that drawer. There's a big one there. Polymatic. That looks like it's just a manifold. Number 5. Just screws, all hardware. All brand new screws and hardware. Hex head. This stuff. Socket cap screws. And this stuff is getting expensive, so whether or not I'm ever going to use these little sizes in that, don't know. But it'll be nice to have them. I was thinking, if I ever get into, oh, those aren't screws at all. What are those things? Funky little things. These are, well, okay. These were flathead socket cap screws in this box. They put an X through it. Then on the top here they put metric screws, but what's in here has nothing to do with either. These are some sort of connectors or something. These look like they would be pushed into position maybe, and I don't know what they do. They're very, very specialized. Most of these feel like they've got the actual screws in them though, so that's nice. But I think I started to say that if I got into model engine building, the little tiny engines like Mr. Pete builds, these would be nice screws to use on those kind of projects. Number 6, micro switches. Got a bag with some micro switches in them. These are lights that have these plastic things so they snap in. So these are chassis mounted pilot lights. Got a couple different styles here. Another micro switch with a long arm on it. Rocker switches, again panel mounted. Bunch of fuses. Bunch of bulbs with the bayonet style base on them. Again, would have been used for the manufacture of different control equipment and things like that. You know, might be able to use some of that stuff. The panel lamps, I used to use these a lot with the bayonet style panel lamps. I used to use these a lot in my repair shop, when I had a television repair shop. When people would bring in old stereos and things like that, they would use bulbs similar to that. So I've got some of these squirreled away somewhere. I'll just take the bulbs out of here and put them with those. These are actually pretty nice switches. Don't really know if I'm ever going to use them. One of the problems is I don't have the cutter to cut this perfect square hole in the sheet metal faces that this would stamp in. I guess I could buy one. I just don't foresee myself making that many of these type of products. Look at that light. Sounds like it might be broken. Number 7. Oh yeah. Alright, so what's in here? Box is almost empty. What's in here are large relays for industrial control. And these have what are called an octal base. So you've got this pin with a keyway on it so that you can only get this to go in one way. And then what you would have is inside the metal box near the machinery that this was associated with, you would have these type of sockets. That's actually a smaller one, I think. Where is it? Nope. So there you go. So the idea is the technician comes along, the machine is malfunctioning because of a bad relay. Poop. Or pop. And we get the machine back up and running right away without having to deal with unscrewing wires or anything like that. So what's in here is, oh, these are tiny toggle switches. These are nice for somebody making, hobbyists making things. All brand new. Got a whole bag of brand new octal relay bases. So you get the screw terminals for the wires to hook up to, and then you just plug your relays in there. So got a bunch of these, got a bunch of the relays. Might be able to get a few bucks for those. One big socket in there. Box says it's 10 amp 300 volt. Not gonna bother looking at that closely right now. I believe this is number 8. 4 boxes. First thing I saw was Nicholson. I was like, hey, that's the file company, right? Then I saw hammer faces, and I was like, what the heck? Then I opened it up, and I immediately knew what these were. These are replacement heads for a Nicholson mallet. So, got a mallet that has the heads that can be unscrewed and replaced when they get broken or damaged. That's what these are. Now, I have a mallet or two like that, but they're not Nicholson's, so I don't know if these would fit or not. And these have a part number right on them. There's 2 in the box, of course. 1.5 inch diameter, catalog number 85154. These right here are medium hard, hard, hard,
and hard. So I've got 3 hards, 1 medium hard. Those will be easy to sell if I don't keep them. Number 9. This plastic tube is filled with these tiny countersunk screws. They look like they might even be stainless. Very specialized little screws. Look like they're a very small Allen head, maybe. Or that might even be Torx. I don't know. Very odd little screws. And then the rest of this box is just filled with a ton of these. Okay. I looked at them and they appear to be aluminum. And I took one apart and I took the part number off and everything, and these are made by Hubbell, Hubbell. And what these are strain reliefs for low voltage like wiring. Pretty sure low voltage because of the size. So that big metal cabinet with the relays and everything going on, and it might have like small wires that come out and go to micro switches or sensors, things like that. And every one of those connections is going to come through the cabinet through a hole and then go through one of these strain reliefs. Well, so I thought, well, that's kind of neat. I probably wouldn't really need these myself unless I build a box to do something along those lines for something later on. Then I looked these up and I was surprised to see how expensive these little fittings are. I think if you buy these new from an industrial supply, they average around $6 or $8 a piece, ame more. I don't remember. It's been a while since I checked this out. I bought this stuff like a month ago, but like I said, I'm way behind on showing this stuff. But I got a lot of them there, so again, probably going to be an eBay thing. We're already at the end of row number 1 because of course the first 3 drawers were empty. Oh, that draw's got a little bent piece on there that was hanging up, and I just bent it more trying to get it out. Alright. Heavy, whatever's in here. I forget what's in here. Oh. Screws. Pretty shiny little screws. Tiny suckers. Box chock full of them. Of course they put this old masking tape, of course it wasn't old when they put it on there, to keep the box together. It's over the size completely, so I have no idea what size these screws are. They're little. Fine thread, very little, maybe 1/4 inch long, regular head. I don't know what I'm going to do with those. Or a Romex clamp. And this thing, which wasn't too long ago, I had no idea what this was. This is what do they call this? Not a whip. But essentially what this is again, where a cable's going to go into a box or a chassis, you want that cable to be protected. So what happens is, this is kind of like, works like the Chinese finger trap. If I push this, you can see it actually opens up. So you push this like this, you run your cable through and you let go, and this will clamp down on that cable, and it gives it a certain amount of protection and strain relief so that the cable, if it gets tripped on, won't be ripped out. These are a little expensive for what they are. Box 11. A General Time hour meter. This has 17,880 hours on it. I wonder if you can reset that to 0. And this is 120 volt. This is a 120 volt hour meter. You put 120 volts on here and it starts counting the hours. So this would be on whatever machinery you were checking, and say it was a big, I don't know, some sort of big machine that needed to get maintenance every so often. Well, then every time that machine was running, maybe the control circuit was 120 volts, even though the machine was probably running on 440 or something. And this would run. And so that the operator could, or the technician, whoever was in charge of that, come by and would log the hours, and they'd know, oh yeah, this machine's, you know, scheduled for shutdown to lubricate all the connibling pins. Solid state relays. These can be expensive. You know, it's used. Is it good? Don't know for sure. I could certainly test it. But basically the way this works is you have your circuit run through here like a regular relay, and then when the proper DC of voltage is applied to here, this circuit closes, but there are no moving contacts inside like a regular relay like that. So in theory it should be more dependable. This box just filled with this transformers, small transformers. There's some sort of doohickey with a micro switch on the back. That must be a pressure switch because it's got a port right there, but it's got a micro switch on the back of it. PIRB, P-I-R-B. There is a chassis mounted double pole switch. Almost looks like a circuit breaker, but it must be just a switch. Air packs. This big thing. This is a liquid level switch. Alright, so that would be expensive to buy new, and it might end up just being junk. The trouble and time of wiring that up to test it might not even be worth what I could get for used one of those on eBay. More panel switches, toggle switches, just hardware galore. Well, here's a bag of brand new brushes for some kind of a motor. There's a part number on there and nothing else, so it might be kind of tricky to find out what those go to. But they're brand new, and looks like there's 3 pair in there. Some of this stuff, if it gets out of position and sticks up too far, it makes opening the drawer below it or above it quite an adventure. I just had to skip this drawer because of the fact that I couldn't get the stuff out of it. Alright, nice. 20 amp positive lock sockets, plugs and outlets, or plugs and sockets. So if you've got something that you need to plug in and you do not want it coming unplugged during operation, you simply, well, you're supposed to plug this in and then give it a twist. These actually don't match. Alright. I'll be damned. Anyways, if you go to buy these are expensive to buy. These are made in the US of A. Don't know who makes these. Oh yes I do. Hubble's. Hubble twist lock. Turn and pull. So these would lock together. Again, somebody can't inadvertently hit the cord and pull it out. And there's several more of these deals here. Oh wait a minute, these are different. Look at this. The heck? This has got the cage to go around the cable. Then it's got this heavy, strong cable with this almost like a pull. It's like, is this to help you maybe when you have one of these plugged in, pull this out? Again, not going to use them. Sell them, get rid of them, whatever. Lucky number 13. These look like Schedule 80 PVC elbows, threaded. Got some 90s, mostly 90s. One T. Some more brass. Well, that's something special. Victor check valve, model CRF regulator. Fuel. Oh, that's interesting. That's something. That's a horse of a completely different color right there. Got a couple of those. Fuel valves. Victor. This was a drill operated pump. Barb fittings to hook a regular garden hose on the input and the output. But it's been taken apart and the rotor is gone. Or impeller. I don't know why somebody would save that, says Steve as he Puts it back in the box instead of throwing it away. There's a nice looking valve right there. VLIER of Burbank, California, NV125. It's quite the valve. As is this. Look at this nice little brass. That might be a petcock. Oh, that hasn't been turned in a while. The heck? That looks like an old... Oh no, it's not a toilet one. This would have an arm on it. You'd put a float on the end of it. And this would be to control the level in a tank that it was being, auto-filled. I don't know if you want to rely on that today. Kind of actually neat though. It's got a little thumb screw so you can adjust the arm. See, if this was a toilet tank one, you wouldn't have this adjustment. You would just bend the rod. I wonder how many people even know what I'm talking about. Anybody who goes to work on a toilet today, they don't tend to see those. They tend to see the modern float assembly, which is supposed to be an improvement. Speaking of, so when I first looked at this, I was like, what the heck? And then I realized what this was this is a float switch. So this sat in a tank of fluid or something. This plastic right here must be able to float. And there must be a piece of metal or a magnet. Yeah, I can see it right in there. There's a piece of metal or a magnet in this. And when I move this up and down near my ear, I can hear the tiny little reed switch, magnetic switch that's inside here, opening and closing and clicking. So that's what that is. The problem is, this was wherever it was, and whoever wanted to save it just cut it off flush. So you could just see the wire sticking out there. And that pipe was glued into this. So, I mean, that's all nice that they cut this off to save it, but they didn't cut off a little piece of pipe, so how the heck are you going to use that again? You know what I'm saying? You'd have to turn down this OD and put a coupler on there. Coffee break before it gets cold. Too late. I think this is 14. Yeah. 14. Big valve. No, it's a vacuum gauge. It's a vacuum gauge. That's funny. It says in H2O. Vacuum in water? It's weird. Got a barb fitting. Got a couple little brass pieces on here. Brass adapter, brass fitting. And, well, there's the vacuum gauge itself. Looks like some kind of a big regulator. Watts. Model M. 0 to 125, the operating range. C.A. Norgren Company. This appears to be temp 150 degree max, inlet 250 psig max. This appears to be some sort of filter or dryer or something for some sort of system. A little filter or dryer or oil separator. I don't know. There's one with a clear. That one's not even marked with a manufacturer, it's just marked in and out, and the bowl is cracked. That will be scrap aluminum, and that will be trash. Brass ball valve. Ball? Gate. Brass gate valve. Oh, there's a nicer one. That looks like it may be brand new. So if that's a Watts, maybe that's a Watts, I don't know. Or maybe not. This one is not cracked, and it's clearly marked with part numbers, and it looks new, old stock, so I could sell that. Maybe. Check, make sure the camera's still on. Draw number 15. Wire ties. Nice. You can use those. Draw 16. socket, maybe for a relay or some other device. But again, industrial control. Well, there you go, right there. There's a oh, there's a plug. Okay, this is a plug. So your cable goes in here. You take this apart. You wire it to all these pins, and then when you want to plug this in, you plug it in here. There's actually a pin that lines this up. So you can only plug this in one way, and this just plugs in like that. Again, specialized industrial control stuff, but pricey to buy, new. There's a plug and socket together. There's another plug, another socket. Ring terminals. Somebody was buying these by the coil. When you see them like this, it means that this gets wrapped up in a big coil, and they were buying a lot of them. So this company was using a lot of those apparently. This is a heck of a terminal strip here. What do you do with that? Each one of these screws can have one of these type of ring terminals of the right size attached to it. But then on the back side, it's just got a pin coming out. But I'd be willing to bet you solder a wire to that, maybe. Maybe not. Oh, that's a heavy little draw. All hardware, screws. Tons of screws. Standoffs. Hex head. Socket cap, I mean. Yeah, everything. A little bit of everything. 18. Number 18. More hardware. This is predominantly lag screws, lag bolts, which I'm actually glad to see, because on several occasions now I've had an instance where I needed a lag bolt or a lag screw and realized I didn't have a lot of those. This is number 18, which is the one that has the handle broken off. Another one, well, here's an assembly here. This is must be like a combination dryer filter or something with a little, I don't know what this might be, a little regulator valve adjustment on top here and a pressure gauge. But this obviously had something that's screwed onto here that's missing. Oh, here it is. So I don't really know if that's even good for anything. More very specialized fittings. And some less specialized fittings, just good old nice brass fittings. Another type of regulator of some type. And a big valve marked air, off, on. This is made by Humphrey Products, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Now that's funny. That says 250 volt on it. The hell? It's an air valve. There's no wiring to this thing. Here's a few odd of those connectors we saw early on, but these I threw in this drawer here because they didn't have all of the like they were missing, like some of these go in there. There's just a few little wire ties in here. There's a small drill bit. There's this unidentified piece of metal. And 3 very small grinding wheels. 21. We're on the last row. All, well, not a huge amount, but pretty much the whole thing is mostly springs. Bags of springs. And 1 vacuum gauge used. Looks like an early one by the looks of it. 22. More screws. 1 leveling foot. 23. More screws. 24. 1 nice big bolt. And a bunch of very small screws. 25. Some big relays. When the relays get this big, they refer to them as contactors. And these are Allen Bradley's? No, these are Arrow Heart. And more of these type of plug-in relays. Some of them new in the box. I think that's what's in here. Handle with care. Bet. Yep, brand new plug-in relays. Industrial. Brand new solid state relay. Cried 'em. That might be a good eBay item there. Oh, that's unfortunate. These are clips that are either for shelving units or for one of those metal boards that can be attached to a wall, and then you hook this hook on, and then you can hang a bunch of small metal boxes or drawers on. That's going to be, unfortunately, I think that's going to end up being scrap. Unless I can identify exactly what they belong to and sell them as a lot. Number 17. Another one of these doohickeys assemblies. Some more of these little regulators. Oh, some hose clamps, that's nice. A lot of brass that's going to either be kept as usable brass little fittings for fuel lines and things like that on various projects, or brass scrap. And another one of these manifold deals here. I wonder if that's shop made. Lowly Schedule 80 fitting. More zip ties and sawdust. Number 19. When I first looked in this drawer, I found all these things and had no idea what they were. Then, as luck would have it, I found this in one of the other drawers. And what these are called thumb screw knobs. So essentially what you end up with is you have a you select the standard socket head cap screw of the correct size. You select the standard shear lock knob, and you select the way to press and cold form them together. So what you do is you get the right size socket head screw, and then you take one of these deals, press this onto the socket head. Now what you've got is you've turned that socket head screw into a thumb screw. Kind of neat. Got a bunch of those. And then there's a couple of just regular like thumb screws for something else. But if it wasn't for this, I'd have a heck of a time figuring out what these were. Number 20. Final draw. Yet another one of these regulators or whatever. More socket head screws. All socket head screws, socket cap screws, good. And then a bunch of these washers, these specialized washers. And I recognize these kind of washers as the type of washers that are used when you have like a pilot light or something like that that's in a chassis that has a back nut to tighten it. Typically this will be the type of washer they'll put on the front, because it's got little nubs that will dig into the face of the panel, so that when you're tightening that locking nut from behind, the light or whatever it is you're installing will resist the temptation to spin. That's that. Now let me show you the item that I figure I paid $40 for.